Alright, first things first, chalk your front wheels with something. I'm just using a 2x4. Next, put your car in reverse, or park if you have a... Goddamn, hold on. There we go. Or park if you have an automatic. Now you jack it up. That little bluish grayish thing is your jacking point there. Make sure your jack is nice and centered on it and go up. This little notch is where I like to put my jack stands. Note that your car is going to move forward when you let it down, so position the stands more towards the front of the car. Since the car probably moved under your jacking it, kick your wheel chock back into place. Give the car a good shove to make sure it's seated on the jacks, or the stands rather. You want it to fall now and not while you're under it if it's going to fall. You're going to want to unclip your ABS sensor, which is right back here, so when you drop the shock, it doesn't yank on that. Now you need to take out your lower shock bolt here. That's a 14mm socket. You'll also notice I've got my jack right under the spring seat here. What you want to do, and I can't really do this with just two hands to show you, but you want to be jacking the car up under that while you are pushing on this. When it gets to the right height, it'll get really easy to turn this. Like, I can turn this with one finger right now because I've got it to the right spot. The first quarter turn is going to suck either way, but once you got it at that right height, it just comes right out. Alright, once you've got your bolt out, you want to get out from under the car and then lower the jack. Again, slowly. Now, since I'm on coilovers, my springs are just going to fall right out, basically. Since you don't have coilovers, you're going to need to remove the other side before you can remove the spring. So, that one sucks a bit more, and I'll explain that in a second. On this side, it's the same concept, but as I said, it sucks because your exhaust is in the way. So you're going to want a nice long extension, which, as you can see, I really don't have. It's not long enough. But you're going to be banging on your exhaust basically the whole time. But it's the same concept as the other side. Jack it up till it gets easy. Alright, once it's out, you're going to want to get out from under your car again, because this time when you let the jack down, both wheels are just going to fall to the ground. And hopefully you remember to remove those ABS sensor lines, otherwise now you're about to break them. So at this point, your lower arm should have extended enough that your springs basically fall out. If they don't, because you have stock springs, you may need to jack the car up higher and put it at a higher point on the jack stands. But as long as you keep extending it, they'll fall out, I promise. So now we get to the fun part and the whole point of this thing, seeing where your car rubs. So we need to lift the wheel up so it'll smack the arch. So get your jack under the lower spring seat there, or trailing arm, or whatever you want to call it, and just start jacking it up. And you're going to need your e-brake off for this so that you can spin the tire by hand. Just checking to make sure it's still seated properly on the jack there. As long as the tire can spin, we're not rubbing yet. So just keep jacking it up. Till you rub. And as you can see, you can hear it. It's right up in there. So that's where we need to flare it. Make sure you've got your lugs broken loose now so you don't have to do it while your car's on jack stands, because that's dangerous. Clean under the fender liner, which is the little L-shaped thing under there. Make sure you get your rag up in there and really clean it out. So I just remembered that you're running 7-inch 35 offset wheels, so it's probable that you're actually making contact here and not with the fender itself. So you could probably grind that sucker off and be fine, but I don't know, just play around with it and see what you're hitting. If I roll my fenders and it turns out that once I clear the fender I'm starting hitting this, then I'll make a video on how to grind that out. Mount your Chinese fender roller, which you only want to put these on finger tight or so. And probably it's not going to line up with your fender when you first mount it. So what you need to do to get that right is jack, this is fun to do with two hands, jack it up until the arc that the roller draws lines up with the part of the fender that you need to roll. Now we use a heat gun to heat up the inside of the fender there. you want to get it hot enough to the point where it kind of hurts to touch the fender. Maybe a little hotter than that since I cracked the paint on the front of my fender, or the front fenders, so you know, do whatever. Now, just go back and forth slowly. I don't know, I like to do about 20 back and forths, and then give it a half turn of the thingy, I don't know, the adjuster. And you want to be paying attention while you're doing this. The metal of this is flexing. I don't know if you can see it all too well here. If it starts touching the door, you're going too hard. You don't want your back door to be unable to shut. So be patient, pay attention, don't mess it up. Alright, so I put the wheel back on it, and I did another check, and I'm getting to where the shock bottoms out, actually, which is, you know, with a little sooner than I was hoping to, so that's concerning, but besides the point, it rubs right where the shock bottoms, so it's very unlikely that we'll actually rub in actual driving. The other thing is I went back and watched the other video, and it rubs with about an inch of tire showing before the word temperature, and now it's right about touching the T in temperature, so we gained about an inch of bump clearance there, so that actually is pretty good. I was gonna go farther, but it started to crack the paint on the inside of the thing. I'm gonna hit that with some touch up and some, you know, undercoat on that, but we're really far away from that tab that I was worried about, which is under here. There's about an inch of clearance to that. You'll notice that under compression the tire pulls really far that way, so this is really the part where you need to be doing your most rolling. Alright, reassembly time. So when your springs fell out, probably a couple of rubber pieces fell out too. I just want to be sure you put them back together correctly. The one that's, let's put them next to each other here. So the one that's more symmetrical on the top, on the wide end, is the top spring, and you just want your spring to sit, the end of your spring to hit that little stopper there. And same thing on the bottom, there's a little stopper there. You just get your spring lined up with that. Alright, so now we're putting everything back together. You want to get your springs in the seats. Mine are going to look different than yours because of the coilovers, as stated previously. Slowly. For me, I have to jack up slowly so that the springs don't fall out, but it'll probably be easier for you. One thing to pay attention to always while you're jacking these things up with springs attached is make sure you're not picking your car up off the jack stands. Okay, so just like before, you want to play around with the jack height. Once you've got the correct height, the bolt should freely be able to push in and out here. So you'll know you've got it when that happens. Just keep pushing on the bolt while you're moving the jack up and down. Don't forget to plug that ABS line back into its little holder